Hi, today I'm going to be showing you my approach to gesture drawing, and to do that I'll be using the figure drawing training tool at www.pixelovely.com/gesture/figuredrawing.php. So here the video is playing at actual speed, and what I'll attempt to do is to explain my process along with the drawing. I wasn't sure whether it was better to show a shorter video that was showing the drawings in time-lapse, or to have a longer video where I explain more, but that may end up being boring for viewers. I settled on the longer video option just because if I was learning, I'd rather see exactly what the person drawing was doing. So let me start by briefly explaining what gesture drawing is all about. Gesture drawing is a method of quickly capturing the pose of your model. You're not concerning yourself with likeness or accuracy. What you want to achieve is a representation of the action of the pose the model is in. This allows you to superimpose that action onto any character you want. It's not about the model, it's about what the model is doing and capturing the spirit of the pose. So where do we start? Well, for me, it all begins with a strong line of action. The line of action is usually one or two, sometimes more, but usually one or two strong lines that really explain the pose. This isn't the line of the spine or the line of the leg, although it may include the spine. It almost always does. This is the line that best expresses the pose you see. If you strengthen or exaggerate this line, it will increase the dynamic quality of your pose. For these drawings, I'm really not going to focus too much on exaggeration, although I may do that from time to time. As I see this drawing of the axe holder in hindsight, I really would have pushed the S-curve going from his head to his left shoulder, down to his right hip, and then going down his left leg. The more you practice looking for strong lines of action, the better you'll get at finding them. I still need to practice, and there's always room for improvement. So here I started with the head, or more like a placeholder of where I generally want the head to be, so I have something to work off of. I quickly moved into finding the large triangle shape that encloses the model, and this will help maintain the proportions of the pose. I'm using a Wacom Intuos tablet to draw this digitally. It's funny how sometimes people will comment how it's easier to use a digital medium to draw. I can assure you that it's much harder, for me anyway, to draw with a tablet and digital pen than it is to draw with a pencil on paper. Anyway, my tablet pen tip barely moves off the surface of the tablet. If I was drawing with a pencil on paper, my pencil wouldn't really lift off the paper too much either. I'm trying to keep my lines as loose and flowing as I can, because as I said before, this isn't so much about accuracy, it's about getting the action down. If you apply a very light pressure to the surface with whatever you're drawing with in the beginning, then you can increase the pressure and create darker lines later on, and people will tend to only look at the darker, more defined lines. So you don't have to erase these light starting lines. This pose is so dynamic already that it's really easy to find the lines of action and force. Because of this, I can use more confident straight lines to begin with. Because this next pose is so much more graceful and elegant than the last more intense pose, my lines are going to change to reflect that. I want to get as much of the pose represented in the beginning as possible, so that I know my drawing is going to fit on the page. And so I have a basic proportional framework I can use to break things down into smaller parts. I tried to connect lines of force, and here you can see I did that with the arms of the ballerina and her raised right leg and left arm. It's kind of funny how slow it seems when I watch this. It felt like there's so much less time and I was moving much faster when I was actually drawing. I kind of struggled on this one. I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's the angular quality of the pose or something. Maybe his underwear. I guess it's just that poses like this seem quite unnatural because you don't really see people holding poses like this. In life drawing, it's sometimes like that, where the model takes on such weird poses that you never see someone holding in real life. It's cool sometimes though, because you get to see unusual twists in the body, or you can focus on muscles you normally wouldn't see. I think when I start off badly, or when I'm really not interested in the model's pose, it often ends badly. It really makes a difference how interested you are in what you're doing. Music can affect this too. If you're in a life drawing session and someone's playing music you absolutely can't stand, it's hard to focus on drawing. I always bring headphones just in case that happens. I realize that maybe I've done that to people who don't share my musical tastes in many of my videos, but at least on YouTube, if you don't like it, you can mute it. Unless it's a video like this with commentary. I apologize in advance if my voice is really annoying and distracting. Here you can see just how much the initial laying can change from what you end up with. You'll notice that I draw through the form a lot. So even if a part of the body is hidden behind something, I'll still try and connect it to the body. Sometimes in beginners' works, they won't do this, and then may end up having arms or legs that don't really connect to the body, if you could imagine the body unobstructed. Here I start by drawing in the sword, because I can then use a sword as a measuring device to relate to the body. For instance, where the hand touches the blade, or the triangular shape formed from the negative space between the blade and the woman's torso and leg, which I increased for more of a dramatic effect. You'll notice with a complex pose like this one, with two models, I try to relate each model to the other every chance I get. So I'm really working on both of them at the same time. Here I'm throwing in a ground plane. Whenever a large portion of the body is on the ground, I'll throw in a ground plane. With longer poses, I almost always have a ground plane to start with. It somehow tricks your brain into thinking you're looking at a 3D space, and for me it makes visualizing the figure much easier. Well, I don't think I have any more to say, so I'll make this the last one. I hope I gave you a better understanding of gesture drawing, and remember that the only real way to improve in drawing is to practice drawing as much as you can. Thanks for watching.